Hi, I'm Leah and I am a user research and strategy consultant, and I'm here with my lovely cat Teddy. How did I get into UX? Well, this is a bit of a funny story. I'll try not to prolong it, but I was a poor law student many years ago, too many years than I care to mention. And I must have signed up for usability testing in terms of being a respondent and a participant in a usability testing session, having absolutely no idea what that was. So I turned up and I was paid royally to give my feedback on the British Library's website. I think it was probably because I was a student, so that's why I fitted into this criteria. And I just remember thinking, gosh, I'm being paid 75 quid, to be able to just talk and give my feedback. It just sounded like a great gig, really. So after that, I decided, after that experience, I decided not to follow law. I was always going to do something to do with forensics and trends and patterns, because I'd always been very interested in sort of what motivates human behaviour. And at that time, UX was sort of becoming UX. People were doing it, but nobody was calling it user experience design at that time. And yeah, that's how I... What is my typical day? I don't really have a typical day, I would say, and that's what I really like about user experience and working in this industry. I have the great fortune of being able to work from home and be able to work with my cat. I have a little office here. My cat obviously doesn't really get involved in many decision-making processes, but I do, and part of my job is to ensure that my team are working closely and effectively with my clients' team, because often many of my clients have their own researchers and designers in-house. I also sort of don't get too involved in the granular of the research. I don't write surveys myself anymore, but I'm heavily involved in having sort of kind of strategy meetings with my clients to ensure that the business is going in the right direction, that stakeholders are asking the right questions, and that we, very importantly, are getting the right answers to them. What challenges do I face? Gosh, well, I think this may go for many, but sometimes you have to compromise within this industry. So I can present, my strategy or my findings to a product owner, and they may turn around and say, yeah, thanks for that, but I don't agree, or we're not gonna take that on board. And I think a long time ago I used to take that very personally when I was much younger. And now I just accept that actually stakeholders who have a stake in the business and essentially are putting their neck on the line for the product that they're trying to sort of work on have the final say. So really part of our job as researchers is just to ensure that we're working with people and not against them. There's absolutely no battle that takes place. It's not a competition. And so yeah, picking battles I'd say is a challenge. What do I look for when hiring someone? In a researcher, I really want someone that's intrigued, that is curious about behaviour, that wants to ask the question why. Why are we finding this? Why are we finding that things aren't the way they should be? Why is conversion down? I don't know, just, being inquisitive is really important for me, and having, sort of a curious nature within the team. I also look to have people from a diverse background. I set something up called UX Link Corner because, as you know, I have a law degree, which has got absolutely nothing to do with human factors, and originally found it quite difficult to get into UX based on my background. So I I look for diversity, I look for transferable skills. What excites me? So no day's different. I love working on brands where I'm actually a consumer, and then seeing that actual change roll out to the wider audience and feeling like I was part of that. I love I still love trying to understand what makes people tick. I love, thinking about the fact that, behaviour is a moving beast. So with all these disruptive technologies coming out nowadays, we have to completely up our game. We need to definitely be more user-centred and less technology-driven, I think. So that's exciting for me, seeing what's new. If I could give advice to somebody, I would say I would start networking with the right people. So get yourself on LinkedIn, network with people like myself, of course. Join meetups. Register with recruiters, only the good ones. So if you would like a list of who they are, then please do feel free to contact me. I would suggest that somebody doesn't give up, because it is quite difficult to get into UX. It's kind of blown up over the last few years. And I think that, sometimes employers are a little bit sensitive as to the amount of candidates that they may receive. They're inundated. And if you have changed career, honestly, I feel your pain. It can be really hard work. So don't give up. You will get a gig. I don't expect you to intern for free of charge, but perhaps get a role as an intern and see whether you can then get a role as a junior. But really just keep going at it. Have a look at experiences that you don't like, for different brands. And if it's not too time consuming and you enjoy it, why don't you map out an improvement and perhaps send it to somebody and say, hey, I was on your website, it's really rubbish. This is what, don't say it's rubbish, say that you think that there's some things that they could do to improve, and map them out. And if you're a researcher, you could suggest some methodologies they could take. And if you're a UX designer, use your toolkit, all of the things that you've learned. One other piece of advice is, this is maybe a bit controversial, but don't spend thousands of pounds on a course unless you can completely afford it. There's nothing worse than spending thousands of pounds on one of these new UX courses and not being able to get a job for ages and ages afterwards and starting your new career in debt. So really ask yourself whether that's the way you should be spending your money, whether you should spend the money on a course like that, or whether you could have a look at some stuff online or reach out to different mentors like myself, or even do a master's for around the same price. Anyway, if you are starting out, I wish you the best of luck. So from me and Teddy, we're going to say goodbye. Say goodbye. Yeah, he doesn't like being used like this.